I wanted to see if I could remake Fortnight by Taylor Swift from scratch, and I ended up remaking it, but also talking a lot about the things that I think a lot of people don't like about the new record, giving some music production based context around it. And then I also kind of did my own twist on Fortnight to try to see if the song itself can be salvaged. But yeah, if this is the kind of video that you enjoy watching, please hit subscribe, do all that stuff. I also work as a freelance music producer, so if you enjoy this kind of style of production, check out the link in the description below. My first problem with this album is I keep accidentally calling it the Dead Poets Society. But regardless, this is the new Taylor Swift album that just came out April 18th. Today is the 26th. If I'm being honest, I don't hate this record, but I understand why it's just kind of like for a lot of people. Real quick, my thoughts on this album. First of all, Taylor Swift is like one of the biggest artists in the world. She can literally do whatever she wants. If you scroll down to her Spotify, she is literally #2 in the world. And there are some points where her Spotify profile goes up to #1. She can do whatever the heck she wants. She has more than earned the right to just make an album for herself that doesn't really hit with anybody else. So what I will say is, in my subjective opinion, I feel like this could have been a little bit better, and that a lot of people share that subjective opinion. At the same time, I will say I am a Jack Antanoff apologist. I think that a lot of people who are saying like Jack Antanoff is ruining modern music are being hyperbolic, and like on some level, the people who are going to him for his production style, they want his production style. They are not being forced to work on records with Jack. Like, people want that sound. And so I think that saying, oh, he's just ruining music or he's imposing his vibe from the bleachers onto other people's records, I don't think that that's accurate. Now, at the same time, I think that part of what a lot of people don't like about this record are, well, I guess we could pull up a notepad and start talking about it. This is why I think people don't really like the record, is there's multiple aspects when you're making a record. You have the songwriting, you have the production, you have the genre, you have the mixing style. But even if we wanted to break that down more, it would be instruments, lyrics, arrangements. And we could break these down into a bunch of smaller sections. But essentially, these are the things that you're thinking about whenever you're making a record. Also, mastering level. And what I think is setting people off on this record versus previous records is normally you've had stuff that is very elevated in one department and is very subdued in another, but because one is sort of jumping out more than the other, it's okay. So Jack Antanoff has said in interviews that he really doesn't like the really harsh mastering style of modern records. And so with this album, I feel like a lot of the songs are really soft in terms of like how loud they're being pushed. Like, really quickly, we have some snippets and I had to like boost them a lot. There's a very soft mastering style. I would say also it's very unprocessed in terms of its mixing style. Jack Antanoff, one of the strengths that he has as a producer is getting like a vibe with very raw sounding production elements. So if you've listened to the Bleachers record, or if you watch the video that I did on the new Bleachers song, Tiny Moves, one of the strengths of that song is that it's very raw. It's very unmixed. It doesn't have like a very strong polish to it. Like, the drums almost sound like they're just raw microphones with a little bit of compression on them. I think his best stuff is when he leans into that vibe. The style that it's going for is sort of this like indie pop, minimal synthwave vibe, which is similar to what Midnight's was, but it wasn't as like hipstery. Like, even compared to something like Midnight's, it's very minimalist in terms of its genre and production. And then I would say arrangements, they are very long with not a lot of variation. So already we can see a problem starting, is we are getting really soft songs that are very minimalist, where not a lot is going on, and they're kind of long. Some of them are average length to slightly above average length. And then, as you can see with the arrangements, they just kind of look like they stay the same dynamic for most of them. Like if you look over the song as a whole, a lot of them have this sort of, maybe they'll start out a little bit quiet for the first few seconds, but they have this same dynamic where all the elements that come in this very minimalist track will all come in at once near the beginning, and then they'll all just kind of ride out the song. And so there isn't a lot of like movement going up and down throughout the dynamics of a track. I would then also say the songwriting is very sparse / repetitive. And that is not a negative thing in my opinion. I think pop stuff is really effective when it is sparse and repetitive. But the thing to keep in mind is right now we're already getting into stuff feeling very samey, stuff being sparse production elements. So when you have songwriting stuff where like a chord progression feels like it's kind of going the whole way through the song, and there's not a whole lot of like massive changes, and the elements that you do have that are playing that same chord progression are just kind of going over and over and over and over again, it can be kind of hard to grasp. And then I think another thing that people are pointing to, which is like a common sort of, people are just throwing this at this record as like a catch-all for like, the record's not good, is lyrical content. It's very, I don't even know how you would describe it. I wouldn't even say like poetic in the sense of, oh, these are poems per se, but it's very indie. It's very, I would almost call it like cerebral lyrics, hard storytelling vibes, which there's a lot more self-expression in stuff like that. But then I feel like when you're doing lyrics in that style, you do have to understand that there's like a barrier of entry for people who are stepping into it. Like, and so I think it's a combination of all of these things that are just kind of, okay, the result of this record is it feels very soft and samey and kind of self-indulgent the whole way through. Not to mention that Tortured Poets is an anthology. There's like 30 something songs. I feel like she could have very easily cut this in half or just not do the anthology thing, because I think the biggest problem that a lot of people have is just this doesn't feel like 2 records worth of material. This feels like 1 record worth of material, and then even the material that's there, it should probably be shortened and refined a little bit more. So when you have this production style where everything feels bloated, everything feels like it's a little bit too long, everything feels like there's not enough variation or identity, and it feels very like self-indulgent, and it's very like unprocessed and soft and minimalist. And again, I'm not saying this is what happened. I'm just saying this is how a lot of people are perceiving it. It has the perception of you just kind of farted out a bunch of songs over the course of 2 months in a very minimalist style, and you're just kind of releasing an album for the sake of it. And honestly, if I'm listening back to it, Fortnight, This Is Down Bad, Tortured Poets Department, the song, I don't think they're bad. I don't think that they're like irredeemably terrible. I just think that they missed the mark in terms of Taylor Swift's audience and like the crossover between the fact that she is literally the biggest pop star in the world, and she made something that felt very much like an indie record from some unknown artist in New York, which, to be fair, that's probably closer to who Taylor Swift is as an actual person. Having said all of that, we are going to try to fix this record. And I say fix as like a hyperbolic way. People can do whatever they want with their music, but let's try to correct some of these things that people say they don't like about it and see if we can do something. So we're in the key of B. Let's try making a minimalist, synthwavy indie pop thing that fits the aesthetic of what they were going for with that record, but also kind of fixes some of the fundamental issues that people had with the record. Yeah, let's try that. Drums that are a little bit more poppy, because I appreciate that Jack Antanoff is going against the grain in terms of how bright and modern do records need to be. I think that that is an admirable conviction. At the same time, I think that the current record is just too dark, too muted. Now, I would also say that like this is also going to put it in a little bit more of like a standard pop radio space, which may be something that they had a conversation about where they're like, hey, we really don't want this to feel like any other record out there, which is a valid desire. Then let's get like some kind of loops or shakers going. Like like right there, that already has more of like the old sampley vibe that I feel like they were going for. Something that you would find on like an old sampler from the 80s. I want to try to get something weird going on in the synth. Yeah, let's try something like that. Already, I feel like that percussion loop is doing a lot of work to just make it feel interesting, make it beefier by making this guy go down an octave.
We were forever running to you sometimes, and for a fortnight there, and for a fortnight there we were, 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 and for a fortnight, and for a fortnight there, and for a fortnight there we were, into good neighbors, your wife waters flowers, I wanna kill her.
Like that kind of sounds like the song, and then but like when we go back to the original version, like the drums are so quiet and everything is so muted and minimalist that it feels like nothing's like jumping out of the song. You know, I'm just gonna go and make this as like slappy as I would do on one of my productions. Here is my reinterpretation of Fortnight by Taylor Swift.
And for a fortnight there we were, forever running to you sometimes, ask about the weather, now you're in my backyard, turn into good neighbors, your wife waters flowers, I wanna kill her.
So very clearly a different vibe, but I feel like this has a lot more of like the elements that people are wanting from like a Taylor Swift record. And on some level, it just kind of sounds like 1989. But yeah, I had a lot of fun doing this. Let me know if you guys would like me to remake some other songs in my own style, because I had a lot of fun doing this. Remember to hit like, subscribe, all those things. Also, if you want to join these streams live, go follow me on Twitch. Been having a lot of fun there recently. There's a Discord server that I have where I'm posting community specific tutorials that are like small, short snippets every single week. Yeah, we're having a lot of fun there. So there's an invite link for that in the description as well. But yeah, I will see you guys next week.